Eating fries, burgers, fried chicken, and other greasy or highly processed foods on a regular basis may taste delicious and have you craving more while feeling good at the time, but can take a huge toll on your body in the long run. Changing eating and lifestyle habits now could help steering away from many diseases, no matter how unpreventable they may seem. I'm here to talk about type 2 diabetes today, and we'll be referring to type 2 diabetes when mentioning diabetes. Diabetes is one of the most common diseases among Americans, about 1 out of every 10 individuals, and is often overlooked as if not a big deal anymore. Diabetes, which developed mostly in people aged 45 or above, is now being diagnosed in more and more young adults and teens. Diabetes is a threat because it welcomes several other limiting and deadly diseases that will leave an individual depending on meds, machines, and caretakers more and more as they age with the disease. This, however, doesn't have to be so. One can have many chances to take back control of their life and health. Before continuing on to ways of avoiding diabetes or how to keep it in check, let's learn a little about genetic susceptibility. Genetic susceptibility, also known as genetic predisposition, is the inherited risk of developing a disease. This risk could be based on several reasons such as genes, acute illness, hormonal changes, alcohol, and or drug abuse, etc. Genetic testing is available if individuals wish to identify which diseases they are genetically susceptible to. Please note that these tests can only help determine the risk of some diseases and might not be able to foresee other conditions. If you're not diagnosed with diabetes but have a family history of it, it is best to start now in terms of diet and a healthy routine to delay or completely prevent diabetes. Here are some small changes that can be made to the diet. A reminder that lifestyle changes don't have to be drastic and can be started with small steps. It is important to stick to these changes in order to see long term results. Blood glucose targets for diabetic people and pre diabetic people are essential to help determine their goals for beginners and to keep diabetes away or to maintain a healthy balance. These targets are roughly as shown because it can be different for individuals, and it's always best to check in with your health providers before taking further steps. Many studies have shown the importance of foods containing carbohydrates, and those particularly from whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and low fat milk in the diet of people at risk of diabetes or with diabetes. The effect that these foods have on an individual's blood glucose after the consumption of the meal is known as glycemic response to that meal. And glycemic index, which is just another tool make that can help make better food choices, is a system of assigning numbers to carb containing foods in relation to how much each food increases blood sugar. Glycemic index can depend on a lot of different factors such as the type of sugar, amount of carbs, nature of starch, way a food is processed and cooked, etc. Yet in people with diabetes, consumption of a variety of starches and sucrose both acutely and for up to 6 weeks produce no significant difference in glycemic response if the amount of carb intake was similar, hence concluding the total amount of carbohydrates in meals and snacks to be of more importance than the type or source of it. Protein intake does not affect an individual in any harmful way, just like anyone without diabetes. Although protein itself isn't a problem, the way it's cooked and what type of protein it is can highly affect the body functions and one's mood. Therefore, protein choices such as white fish, chicken, tofu, nuts, etc. are highly encouraged. Most Americans receive enough protein in their diet, and therefore no change in terms of intake amount should be necessary. Changing the type of protein, which would include lower amounts of saturated fatty acids, could be challenging. This brings us to our next nutrient, fats. Saturated fats are the principal dietary determinant of plasma LDL cholesterol, and people with diabetes could even be more sensitive to dietary cholesterol than usual. Trans fatty acids have a similar effect like saturated fats in lowering plasma HDL levels and increasing LDL levels. Thus, intake of trans fatty acid, which is commonly found in snacks and other foods, should be fairly limited. Fats are also an essential part of the diet and should not be completely ignored in thoughts of lowering blood cholesterol or diabetes. Instead, focus should be made towards different, more beneficial eating patterns. Monounsaturated fatty acid supplements have been shown to lower plasma triglycerides. Using olive oil for dressing and cooking can help include monounsaturated unsaturated fats in the diet. 2 to 3 servings of fish can also be recommended for a beneficial amount of unsaturated fats in if one's diets permit. Plant sterols and stenoesters block cholesterol from being absorbed and thus helps lower blood cholesterol. Therefore, foods such as vegetable oil, seeds, and nuts are encouraged in one's diet to keep cholesterol in check. Slightly cooking vegetables also leaves more nutrients for consumption. It is almost impossible to completely eliminate fast foods or foods that aren't of the best overall nutritional value. Therefore, it's always encouraged to eat all foods in limit in order to not overpower the effect of one over the other. However, diet is a major component in leading a healthy lifestyle. It can only be so efficient without any or much physical activity. Physical activity is what works with your diet to give you more energy and opportunities to get more from your life. Similar to maintaining a diet, physical activity should also be started by making small, short term, and achievable goals to build up strength and stamina for more. Together with a healthy diet and adequate physical activity, one can lead a happy life while keeping diabetes away or in check. People with diabetes are generally advised to perform moderate level physical activity for at least 150 minutes per week, where moderate intensity usually means getting one's heart rate up by about 50 to 60% more than resting rate. Medical nutrition therapy works with patients who need guidance as to where to start when it comes to making these changes. Nutritionists work with patients to make and achieve their goals. They focus on keeping blood glucose, lipids, and lipoprotein levels in check and monitor blood pressure. These measures are taken to either prevent or control other conditions along with diabetes. They then consider an individual's lifestyle, religious, cultural, and personal preferences, and help with coming up with a diet plan that works with them. These include diet changes that prevent other pre existing conditions from escalating while keeping diabetes in check. They will also include plans to add more physical activity in one's routine if necessary. This is but a short version of what all goes through in nutrition therapy for type 2 diabetes.